What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Sloppy Saturdays. And today we have another first round outlook for you guys. Back to back first round outlooks with teams that have two picks in the first round. We are going over to Cleveland Browns. They sit at pick 6 in this draft. They pick at 6 at pick 24 as well from the trade, the Travis Hunter trade with the Jaguars. We're going to discuss what I think they're going to do with these two picks, which I believe is pretty obvious. I think there's only one way they could go with both of these picks. And we're going to discuss as well their roster, why I believe the Browns have a really good roster for a team picking at number 6, but why they are not going to contend this year with what they have in their quarterback room. We're going to go over it all now. What I love about the Cleveland Browns at number 6 is they're pretty much solidified on one side of the football. I believe they have an elite defense. The problem is with the Cleveland Browns, they just cannot muster up points with their offense, and they haven't found their guy at the quarterback position. But when you look at their defense, it is absolutely legit. You have Myles Garrett, who's a first ballot Hall of Famer. Not only that, arguably one of the greatest players ever to play as an edge rusher. And when you look at Myles Garrett, the only thing I don't like about this Cleveland Browns team, and I like the direction they are going in, he's a guy in the middle of his prime, and now you're going to go another year, in my opinion, where you don't have your quarterback and you aren't going to be a playoff team. I feel like you're kind of, in a sense, wasting what you're doing with Myles Garrett because you cannot figure it out on the other side of the ball. They get Mason Graham. That's what they traded with the Jacksonville Jaguars. They were at 2. I believe they went to 5. Mason Graham, I believe, was a home run hit for them. He's a great defensive tackle. He's a guy that could also play on the edge as well, move all over that D line. He's a run stopper. I think that was a phenomenal pick by them. And what was also a phenomenal pick is Carson. I really don't know how to pronounce his last name. You guys who know what I'm talking about. Defensive Player of the Year. He was a phenomenal pick. Another hit for them. When you look at their secondary, they got Denzel Ward, who I believe is a top 5 corner in football. Grant Delpit, who I also believe is another great secondary player. Malik Collins, also another defensive tackle. That's great for them. Like Quincy Williams, solid linebacker to have. This defense is absolutely legit, and I believe they really don't need pretty much anything on this defensive unit. So this allows them to focus on offense in this NFL draft. And I do believe they have a lot of solid pieces that could be on the rise on offense or just really good secondary options. Like when you look at this team, I don't think they're going to be in the Jeremiah Love market, even though we discussed every team after 2 should be in the Jeremiah Love market. I don't think they're going to be because I think Quinshon Judkins is a really good running back. They selected him in the second round last year, another pick they got from that Jacksonville Jaguars trade. And Quinshon Judkins looked really good in the middle of the season. They were really giving him all the work because he was really pretty much all they had on offense, and they didn't trust the quarterbacks they were putting in. Quinshon Judkins is a guy that could really run in between the tackles, get a heavy workload, but not only that, I believe he's a threat on the receiving end as well. I mean, it's all going to depend how he comes off of the horrific injury he faced. I believe it was the last game of the season last year, last or second to last game. It was the end of the season. But Quinshon Judkins is going to be a really good running back in the NFL. I absolutely love that for them. And then also another thing I love for them that's on the rise is Harold Fannin Jr. That was another home run hit for the Browns. When you look at the Browns, they really did have a great draft last year. He, you could argue, was their best playmaker on offense. I think he's only going to rise even more. Then when you look at their receiver room, I do expect them to draft a receiver, but I do think Jerry Jeudy is a nice veteran to have as a secondary receiver if you have your number one guy. Unfortunately, the Browns didn't have that last year. But Jerry Jeudy, a great route runner, like I said, a veteran, a guy that can move in and out of the slot. I do like him as a secondary option. Another thing I also love about the Cleveland Browns in their receiving corps is Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond is a guy that's an absolute burner. A guy that was supposed to be drafted in the first 2 to 3 rounds of the NFL draft obviously had an incident that made him undrafted, but the Browns do pick him up. So, again, I do think that was a huge pickup for them. And Cedric Tillman, he's shown to be a spark guy here and there for the Browns. So, again, I do think they need that X in this offense that's going to make everything pretty much come together. And we're going to discuss when they're going to take that. They also going to need an offensive lineman as well. I do think their offensive line is pretty bad. Whether it's going to be a guard or a tackle, I do think for the offensive line position, it's going to be whoever falls to them. We're going to discuss that. I'm kind of like foreshadowing stuff for you guys. But again, I think if you get one offensive lineman and one receiver, I think this offense looks very formidable. The only problem with this Cleveland Browns team, like I said, is the quarterback room. I feel like they have absolutely nothing in this quarterback room, and they're just riding it out one more year. Would I have liked them to maybe take a shot on a different veteran in free agency? Maybe, because I think, again, like you add a receiver to this room, you add an offensive lineman to this room. With this defense, you're not going to have to put up too many points. Like, you just need to find the guy at quarterback, and in my opinion, they just don't have it. Now, A lot of people love Shador Sanders. A lot of people thought he should have been a first-round pick. I was saying at this time last year when he was supposed to go in the top 5, top 10, I believe he shouldn't have went at it all. I had Cam Ward and Jackson Dart above him. I don't think Shador Sanders is the quarterback for the future for the Browns. I really don't think he's a starting quarterback in the NFL. When you look at the stats last year, they were horrible. I mean, you're looking at 7 touchdowns, you're looking at 10 interceptions, you're looking at an 18 QBR for the entirety of his starts. Like, he was like historically bad, in my opinion. It's so funny how he made the Pro Bowl as an alternate. Again, NFL won't have used for that, but I don't think Shador Sanders, there's anything special about him. The problem with Shador Sanders, in my opinion, is everybody really raves about his accuracy. How he could be one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the NFL. But this guy holds the ball on longer than anybody I have ever seen. He's sitting there holding the ball, holding the ball, holding the ball. And I feel like the biggest thing with accuracy is timing and anticipation, how fast you get the ball out. This guy holds the ball out longer than anybody in the NFL. I don't think he has a terrific arm by any means. I don't think he's extremely mobile. I just don't think he's the answer for the Cleveland Browns at all. And they could be picking next year's draft a different quarterback. And then when you look at Deshaun Watson, that's going to be the QB battle between him and Shador Sanders. I feel like they're going to go Shador Sanders because realistically, at this point, Shador Sanders is the chance, I guess, for the Cleveland Browns' future. When you look at Deshaun Watson, I mean, he was great when he was great, but now you're looking at a guy that missed a ton of time, whether it's because of his personal issues or was the ton of injuries he faced. I mean, you look at his ACL, it's been like torn a couple times. I don't think Deshaun Watson is going to be an answer for them either, but when you look at Deshaun Watson and the amount of money they're still paying them, he's going to have a shot in that QB room. But I think Deshaun Watson's career is basically over. So, again, you look at this Cleveland Browns team, they have a really good defense. I'm going to discuss what I think they should do at both their picks. It's going to make their offense very formidable. And even then, there is a chance that this team maybe could sneak into the playoffs because when you have a defense like this that's holding teams to such few points and you invest in this offense with 2 first-round picks in the NFL draft, maybe one of these quarterbacks will figure out how to put up enough points to get them to the playoffs. Again, I just think their quarterback room is so bad and has really nothing in it. I don't think they're going to be able to get through the season with even one of their quarterbacks. I think you're going to see these quarterbacks come in. And then I also want to discuss Dillon Gabriel as well. I think Dillon Gabriel might be a draft day trade because it seems to me like he's completely out of this quarterback room. He talked about, I don't know, it came out that he hasn't been showing up to things for the Cleveland Browns. I feel like they didn't give Dillon Gabriel, honestly, enough of a shot. Yeah, he was the first quarterback taken before Shador Sanders, and he went in before Shador Sanders. But I feel like they kind of had a quick leash with him, and they let Shador Sanders basically have the runway. And Shador Sanders played like awful as well. So I didn't feel Gabriel's going to be out of his room. Obviously, it's going to come down to, in my opinion, Shador Sanders and Deshaun Watson. And I think there's absolutely nothing there for them. But again, now we're getting into the main part of the video. What everybody wants to know about, who are the Cleveland Browns going to take? Fortunately for the Cleveland Browns at 6, the way I have my mock draft going, my final mock draft is going to come out tomorrow, by the way. I do believe the Cleveland Browns are going to have their pick of their litter at the receiver position at number 6. And I do think they should take Carnell Tate. I think Carnell Tate has the highest floor out of anybody in this draft. He's a really good route runner, and he has the ability at his size to be an X that you leave on the outside. And I think for the Cleveland Browns, that is pretty big because you're going to have these receivers like a Jerry Jeudy, Isaiah Brown, Cedric Tillman be able to work in the slot and get open. I think they need that X receiver, and you're getting a receiver that, again, comes from the best program that develop receivers. I think Carnell Tate is the pick for the Cleveland Browns. Again, if it's not Carnell Tate, I do think they're going to go with an X receiver, so it could be Jordan Tyson as well. There is a chance the Giants do pick a receiver at 5. I discussed after they acquired that pick at 10, I don't think they're going to go receiver at 5. I think they're going to go receiver at 10. So I do believe the Browns are going to take Carnell Tate at number 6. If not, it should be a receiver for them, maybe Jordan Tyson. Again, I don't know why. I absolutely love Mekhi Lemon, but mock drafts don't have him that high. So I do think it's going to be Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson at 6, which is going to be perfect for them. I do think if you have that receiver as an X on the outside for this team, it makes everything look a lot better. It makes Jeudy, Quinshon Judkins, Harold Fannin look really good as secondary options. You just need that guy to go to as a receiver, whether it's on crucial downs at the end of a game, a guy that consistently gets open. Carnell Tate is that guy. And then at number 24, this is where I think they go offensive lineman. For the Browns, honestly, I think it's going to be a mix of whoever falls. I think it's going to be either Olavega Owen out of Penn State as a guard, Monroe Freeling, a tackle out of Georgia, or it's going to be Emmanuel Pregden, the guard out of Oregon. Now, in my opinion, out of the three of them, I think Olavega Olane is by far the best player. I think he crushes it out of the guard. For the Cleveland Browns, unfortunately, I think he's going to go much earlier than their pick. It may have to be a trade up. Who knows? Maybe he'll fall. Out of Monroe Freeling and Emmanuel Pregnan, I do think a guard is more of a necessity for the Cleveland Browns than a tackle. I also like Emmanuel Pregnan better as a player than Monroe Freeling. I really like Oregon's offensive line last year and how they pushed for that run game. I like Emmanuel Pregnan a little more. Monroe Freeling is a guy though that they have going higher than Emmanuel Pregnan. So again, maybe it's Monroe Freeling. And again, I think it's going to be whatever offensive lineman is there pretty much at 24 if they don't trade up. And unfortunately for the Cleveland Browns, the Jaguars were a team that took a massive jump this year. When they traded that pick, people were anticipating that pick could be a top 10 pick. That's why everybody thought it was really a home run trade. Now, the way things are going with Travis Hunter and who they drafted in Mason Graham and others, it still is going to be a pretty good trade for them, even though I want to really grade that trade as incomplete because Travis Hunter is a very unique talent. You could argue the best athlete in the NFL, and he did get hurt in year one, but I do think he could be a superstar in the NFL. But yeah, unfortunate for the Cleveland Browns, that pick does land at 24 for them. But like I said, they're a team with 2 first-round picks that has a whole entire unit for them figured out. I think it's so important that they go offensive lineman receiver. Now, there could be a unique situation possibly where Francis Mawanoa doesn't get picked at that 6th pick, and maybe they go Francis Mawanoa, and then they go in the back end, maybe a Denzel Boston or a Casey Concepcion. That's also another option. I really do anticipate Francis Mawanoa going before their pick. And I do think the guy that they really want is Cardinal Tate. And I think he's going to be there at number 6 for them. If not, they could go Jordan Tyson as well. But whatever variation it's going to be, I do think it's going to be receiver and offensive line. Again, they're kind of in a spot at the 6th pick where you could assume who's going to be there, but you don't know necessarily how the chips are going to fall. Definitely have to go all in on offense. Unfortunately for them, seems like they aren't going to go quarterback. I would really like them to go Ty Simpson, but maybe 24 or if they have to trade up a little bit, but it seems like they're just not in the market for that. It seems like they're just going to let Shedeur Sanders, Deshaun Watson ride out this year. QB battle, see if they got anything there. And then next year, possibly land one of the first 4 or 5 quarterbacks that we really like that could go in the first round. That wraps this episode on the Cleveland Browns first round outlook. Seems to me pretty obvious. It's going to be a wide receiver, offensive line variation, wherever it lands for them, I guess. But yeah, I think the Cleveland Browns at number 6 really do have a pretty good outlook because I think their defense is elite, and I do think they have 2 first-round picks to spend on this offense. Unfortunately, they don't have a quarterback in their room that's going to be the future. Like I said, I think nothing stands out to me with Shedeur Sanders. He holds the ball longer than anybody. I thought he was horrible last year. And then when you look at Deshaun Watson, I think his career is basically over. Again, with the amount of time he missed, whether it was for injury or whether it was for personal issues, don't think they have anything in that quarterback room. And for Myles Garrett, a legendary player, you're wasting essentially another year. That wraps up this episode of the Cleveland Browns. Drop down below your thoughts. What are they going to do with their 2 first-round picks? And Sloppy Saturdays is